Morning guys, it's Paul from Bully's Painting Parlour, obviously. I am in the studio this morning just getting ready to do some more work on the Death Company. I have improvised a larger spray deck this morning, so what you can hear in the background is the extraction for that running. And maybe the compressor every once in a while. I don't like using compressors with tanks, so you might hear it just rumbling away in the background. But for this section it's not too important anyway. So what I did this morning was clean up all the mould lines and just spray these guys with Chaos Black from a spray can. And what I'm going to do now is start to build up as quick as I can in the 15-minute video window I've got for YouTube some colours on these guys, just in terms of the pre-shading and stuff. So I'm running one of my workhorse evolutions today. I had a pain in the arse this morning with the airbrushes, so some of them were left for too long, so I'll have to re-clean them. And as always, we're going to do the test where we spray on a hand and we get a nice even coverage. You don't want any spatter or anything, so that tells me that the paint and the air pressure are the right match. And then hopefully my new camera setup, if I refocus it, I'd appreciate it's a bit more difficult when they're black, but should do this. So I'm using scale 75 Despair Black, and I am just gonna whack over the whole mini. Despair Black is a slightly more desaturated black, which makes it ideal for the type of effect that I'm going to go for with these Marines. This is my favourite little improvised tree of doom. This is the all the arms. Now you can see that I'm using quite a high pressure for this, because it's a base colour. So what I want to do is I want to get it smoothing any imperfections on the armour. From cleanup or mould line removal or whatever else. It's just throwing just that little bit more paint down than I would normally do. As always, when I airbrush, the paint is, however, very thin. I'm going to be doing it in short sections, just to ensure the coverage is nice and smooth. Airbrushes are not easy, as you will see from my other videos. Lots of painters still somehow regard them as cheating. I would argue that to be skilled with an airbrush is more difficult than being skilled with a paintbrush. And the reason for that argument is plain and simple. With a paintbrush you are connected at all times to your miniature. So you are able to accurately test and assess the pressure you're using, and you're only able to make small mistakes. Whereas when you're using an airbrush, you are not connected to your miniature. The airbrush never touches the miniature. That would be a disaster. Which means that you have to judge distance, pressure, and the required skill to throw the paint around without ever touching the model. And if you make a mistake, you're going to screw an entire area of the model. So you can see that the Despair Black going on over the top of the Chaos Black. Oh, it's the telltale whisper of needing more paint. So it's a good opportunity for me to show you how to thin it. So I'm going to put a good whack of the Despair Black in, because we're going to keep using this colour and build up from it. And then I'm going to use Vallejo thinners, and I'm going to put another good whack in, get an old brush, give it a good stir, drain off any excess colour, and then we're going to just blat some through, and then we're going to do the hand test again. And here we can see that the pressure is fine because the paint is fine on my hand. So let's go back to just finishing off these minis. So I'm just going to finish the base coat on the one where the paint changed. Obviously we're using the same colour, so there's no discernible or noticeable difference. I'm really liking these Death Company minis. They are pretty cool, to be honest. It's really warm today in the studio. in England it's about 30 degrees today where I am, which is pretty awesome, but you know, it makes it slightly more difficult to paint when I use the brushes later today. I might even have to do that section tonight, to be honest. Even with a wet palette, it can clog the paint, and you don't want to have that gammy, gunky kind of, I don't know how to paint, how much you painter, too thick kind of consistency on your models, because that would reflect bad on me as a painter. So just going to keep flattening away at these, and we'll start to change the colour up and add the pre-shade highlights to them soon, and that's going to be nice. That's always a good thing to do. Sorry if I ramble inane shit when I'm painting, I'm pretty sure we all do that. It's even worse when you're trying to fill airtime with a video. And of course I don't know how to do all the fancy editing where I speed it all up, like you see all the guys who really know what they're doing on YouTube do. Okay, so we're left with quite a small amount of the original black in the paint cup now, but it'll be enough for what we are going to look to achieve with it. And I need to now find scale 75 number 8, which is my absolute all-time favourite colour ever, and that's Abyssal Blue. And we're gonna whack a good shit ton of Abyssal Blue in there. And I do mean a shit ton, so I've just dumped about half a pot in terms of the paint cup pot rather than the tube, and we're gonna thin it down again about 50-50, and we're mixing it in with that black, with a little bit of black that's left, and that's going to create us a desaturated black, which is kind of like a blue, very very dark blue grey, or even a blue black. Let's just do the old, let's pull some colour through till the old black is gone, and then let's do the test on the hand, see what the consistency is like. Okay, so you can see there, this one here is the new colour. Smiley face. It's not that discernibly different in this layer. It will be, but it isn't in this layer. What we're going to do is we're going to build that up. So to start off with, all I'm going to do for this chaplain is spray it full. Hang on, I can see my daughter Poppy approaching. Poppy, Daddy's on the phone, so she's not in here yet, she's not back yet, Dan. Sorry everybody, the light of my life there. Okay, so I am gonna zenithal all over this guy, and I'm going to use a circular motion with the airbrush. Can you see what I'm doing? Hopefully you can see what I'm doing on the camera. And the effect that this will start to have is almost instant, even if this is only colour number 1. So what we've got now is a desaturated black. It's no longer shiny, it's kind of dark blue grey. Now we're going to do the same. We'll try and do them in order. It's a bit more difficult with the pistol ones because they're all on slightly different angles, but I'll do my best. Obviously we're doing the guns as well because the client in this instant wants black weapons. It's going to be a seriously mean and moody force of death company, this is. Right, on to the next of the Marines, and again we're gonna, he's not quite dry from earlier, despite the fact it's like 30 degrees even in this well insulated studio. Right. And bizarrely the circular motion is important because it feathers the paint on top of the black paint, but it doesn't allow the paint to pull. So it's a simple technique, it is a very simple technique, but the effects it has versus spraying in a straight place where you run the risk of overloading is dramatic. And what I want to do is I want to leave some of the original black, obviously in all of the shadows and the recesses, I'm not trying to desaturate the whole model and just go over everything. This is just, oops, excuse me, knocking my setup there. This is the first time I've used this as well. I've basically screwed an arm into the wall above the paint station so I can film over the top while I'm painting, which is what a lot of people had asked me if I could find a way of doing on Facebook, so I did. Hopefully you think it's a bit of a success. So again, I love this one. This particular helmet's, I think, my favourite helmet. I'm just going to circle out and blat over the marine. 2 more to do and then we'll start to get into the bit that's a bit more fun. Now, I'm loading the paint cup each time, in theory, with enough to do 6 even, sorry. That doesn't necessarily always work, and that's a challenge, so you've got to be mindful of the fact that you might be running out of paint. And mixing the exact same shade again, never easy. Especially when you're working with blacks. Ironically, working with blacks and greens are the ones that are hardest to mimic the shade that you've previously used. And it's useful that I'm videoing these for 2 reasons, because it means I can obviously show you guys how I do my work, which is lovely, but it also means I can keep a verbal record of how I've approached each piece. Okay, so we've still got that same black mix in. What I'm going to take now is scale 75 of Bizzle Blue, and I'm going to put it in on top of that and retop the paint tank or the paint cap up to about half. And I'm going to whack a good chunk of thinner in there. Again, we're just doing this all by eye. All paint mixing is always done by eye. The thinner the paint, the lower the pressure. The thicker the paint, the higher the pressure. If you haven't seen my earlier videos on the basics of airbrushing, it'd be a good place to start, to be honest, obviously, because they're for the basics. I have about 3 minutes left on this 15-minute slot video. If somebody can tell me how I can record longer videos than 15 minutes without having to do a whole shitload of admin, that would be helpful, but it doesn't appear that that YouTube let me do that yet. Alright, so we're going to do the hand test, and here you can see that next to the original colour, it's considerably lighter, but it's still very dark, so it's got the original black mixed in it. Now we're going to take the chaplain again, as always the first mini, and we are going to hit the chaplain up. The light source is going to be the top right hand side for all of these. In this instance we're going to hit the chaplain up and we're going to do a zigzag motion. Sorry you can't see that. Okay, on one side, let's do his gun. The back of his feet, hands. No, you might be able to see it. He's starting to lighten up, basically. Ooh, I've got 30 seconds left. Can I get the last 2 done? And the sergeant with 10 seconds to go. Okay, there we go.